We're here with Patrick Dixon at e-nnovation 2013. Patrick, hi. Okay, so tell me, how did you make the transition from medicine? You come from a background in medicine.
Yes.
How did you make the transition from medicine over into business forecasting and that sort of route? And why also, maybe?
Well, it's a strange story. When I was a medical student, I was still training to be a doctor. I discovered some of the world's first desktop PCs being used in medicine to interview patients and to make a diagnosis. And before I knew where I was running a research project in one of the biggest hospitals in London. And the research project went so well, I started my own business. And then I had to go to my professors and say, look,
I'm sorry, I can't handle this.
I've got to get out of medicine for a bit, and I've got to do this. I've got to get this computer thing
taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had my first IT startup when I was 21.
And were you always interested in IT, the tech world?
Always interested in technology. I was always building circuits and things when I was 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
So I was always interested in technology. Okay. And then I went back to finish my training as a doctor. Okay. But when I qualified, whenever I did a job in a hospital, I left an IT system or a database. They had free IT consulting from me.
Okay.
Which was fun.
Okay.
And I kept my company going.
Okay.
So for years, I was following two tracks. Medicine and IT technology.
Okay.
So you think that's a weird combination, but actually, I can't help it. That's how it was.
Yeah.
And then I started writing books. And I wrote a first book, which started an International AIDS Foundation. And then I wrote another book. And after I'd written 10 books...
So you're also a journalist, third track, or a writer, rather.
Broadcasting now on a very, most weeks on a very wide range of issues in the media, whether it's on genetics, on the internet, on politics, on science, or whatever. And then companies started to come to me and
started finding out who Patrick
advise
Dixon
them
is.
on the future. And the rest was the internet. I mean, I had a website before most other people. I was getting loads of hits as the internet boomed.
Was booming,
and I've had 5 million video views on YouTube, and I've got 42,000 following on Twitter, and 13.5 million users on my website.
Those are some stats.
So it sort of happened gradually, really. But I'm still involved in medicine. I'm the chairman of an of a biotech company, and we're looking at cures for cancer. I sit on the board of a big health company in the UK, and I'm still involved heavily with the AIDS Foundation that my wife and I started.
Okay, excellent. Well, so all of these things that you do and all of your talents, you were given the title of one of Europe's best brains, best thinkers. What does that mean to you?
I have no idea what it means.
Yeah? Well, you must have been told something in terms of, or what does it mean to you then? What does it mean to you?
It's a bit like, there are lots of rankings. It's a bit like, that a certain airline was voted the best airline in the world. And the rankings vary according to which survey and the methods. But if you're an airline and you've just been voted as number 1 or number 2, then you're always grateful. So to get ranked as in the top 20 most influential business thinkers alive today, I was very grateful.
Okay, that's what it is. Thank you for the
I didn't believe it, but I was grateful for it.
I know, you are. Are you a modest person?
No, you're just... I don't know how these things happen, but...
Well, what does it mean to you? What do you think? Or how do you think using that sort of title can help, or how do you work within that? How can you help or take that into your business world, how you function with companies?
Well, I think that particular survey was more of a kind of social media type of polling. And I think that we do live in a day when consumer opinion, customer opinion, social media opinion is really, really important. And that's, for me, why the interaction with the people that come to my website is so important. I try to, my mobile phone number is on the website, so 13 million people have it.
Do you get lots of calls? What's the craziest call you've gotten?
Craziest call? Oh yes, the craziest call is, I want to clone my dad and have him as a baby. Now that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. So what
Why?
did you
Because
say?
there was a whole load of. I wrote a book which included a chapter on human cloning technology and how you can take an unfertilized egg from a woman, remove the genes from it, and you can pop in a nucleus from a skin cell of a man or a woman,
and then
grow it and pop it back. And we're doing that routinely in animals now,
Right.
and some people would like to do it in humans as well.
So that was your response. This is how you do it, or this is how I suggest.
I said that I thought that she would be very disappointed, but as much as she loved her dead father, and even though it probably would be possible to do it,
Okay.
there would be huge risks that we might produce a massive mutation instead, and the child might be born with severe handicap.
Okay.
And also there would be severe risks to the emotional, psychological well-being of a child, knowing that he has been born to you, but he is actually the twin of his grandfather.
Yeah.
And
It's like an afterlife in a way.
and that might be very hard for him
Life.
to cope with.
But what a test, though. What an interesting experiment, though, that would be. A psychological kind of experiment,
there are quite a
right?
few people that would like to do it. There are people that clone their pets, so they think, well, why not clone, or tragically, say, why not clone a child who died, a much-loved 4-year-old child? And I say, you can never bring the child back.
That's true.
You
It's always going to be
might possibly be able to give birth to the identical twin of the child, but it will not be the same person.
Not by the same. People are affected by their surroundings, so even though it might look the same in some way.
But of course, that's the challenge about the future, that you start off looking at technologies and you'll end up talking about ethics.
Right?
You start up looking at big trends like how many people the world can sustain, and you end up talking about ethics. Things like the equality of distribution of wealth, or access to healthcare, or whether it's right that 1 billion people were hungry today. And there are profound ethical challenges which we have to face.
Constantly faced with. Yeah.
And they are an increasingly significant part of the conversations I have with big companies
are
about their ethics and values. Especially in the light of the big downturn, and banks, for instance, are really struggling to find a way through ethically for the future, because people don't trust banks anymore.
Or just trust partners, and there's been so much corruption, so many emotions that play into the business aspect of it, that it steers them in certain ways. And how do you do what's right? How do you know what's right? Interesting. Okay, so tell me you've worked with some of the biggest brands, world brands, consulting them, telling them what to do. What's your general process when you get asked, when somebody approaches you and asks, share some of that genius brain and tell us what we should do? What's your general process in working with them? What do you do?
First is to listen.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
It's a bit like counselling an individual. If you ask me some personal advice, say I need some career advice, the first thing I need to do is really listen. Really listen. Not just to the biography, but what lies behind it. Why you made those decisions. What's important to you. And what your own vision is for your own life. And companies are like that.
They
leadership.
might not realize it, but
leadership of a company is usually like that. They have a story, they have values, they have visions, they have aspirations, they have dreams. And it's as you listen to that, it's really very important. The next thing is, having done that, is to take a distance view, a customer view. So sometimes I will what I would call mystery shop. So I'll phone them up and pretend to be a customer, or I'll explore their world online, or I'll go into some of their stores and I'll video what I see. And sometimes that can be quite uncomfortable. What my camera can see.
You actually videotape.
Say, hey, I just thought you'd like to meet some people. And they, oh my word!
That's great. Actually, having that interaction with the people.
A big part of my job is to hold a mirror up. I talked today about institutional blindness. How about when too many people inside the same company have been with the company too long, they become blind. And blindness starts about 3 to 6 weeks after you start work with a company. Okay. And after 30 years, you're completely blind. So I hold up a mirror, helping them to see themselves as other people see them. By reflecting back to them things which they've said, reflecting back to them things their customers are saying, and showing them things that I'm seeing as I look at their competitors and as I look at the very big picture of changes going on around them. So that's the process, and it's a lot of fun. when you've got the right people in the room, you can find extraordinary things start to happen.
Do you find that you have to, that it's difficult to get them to think in different ways, or to listen to what you're saying? Do you have to convince them a lot, or do they believe everything you say and they don't kind of try to come back and say, well, no, we can't change because this is what we're doing?
Yeah, I think that if you've got the right people in the room, they will be open-minded, curious, and excited about exploring a new world. But I think the challenge can be that when you actually try to translate the discovery they've made about, let's say, a new customer group into a strategy, then if they're not careful, all their existing thinking starts triggering in. Oh, we couldn't do that because, or that would never work, or we tried that before. And of course, before you know where you are, that has killed innovation. What is really exciting, though, is if you have the right people in the room and you've done enough work in the bigger team, you can say, well, funny you should say, you say it doesn't work, but actually you may not know this, but in Poznań, they've been doing it for 3 years. It's their biggest growth sector. Is it really? Yes, your team. Jerry, I was with him last week, you know. And I think it's really exciting, because then you say, look, you've got nuggets, golden nuggets of innovation going on inside your organization. Already the answers are there. What we need to do is to give these people a platform so they can broadcast their fantastic good news stories, and we can see those examples of best practice, of genius translated into the rest of the business.
Very nice. Okay. Well, that's all the questions that I had right now, but we can keep. You want to go back to the Skype thing? 'Cause that's interesting. Or do you need to go to lunch now?
That's fine. No, we were talking earlier about the fact that a lot of technology doesn't make it.
Right.
And it's clever stuff, but people don't use it. And it's not necessarily rational reasons. It's irrational, it's emotional. And we were talking about video, live video, which is actually a very sensitive medium. You see, the thing about, the shocking thing is how much data we leak about ourselves, okay? So you're sitting in front of me and you're leaking data all the time.
Just leaking.
You are. Not just your age, but your accent. I'm guessing about your educational background. I'm building your life story
right
as
now.
I'm talking to you. Yes,
Right.
and you've been doing the same with me.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And on a telephone call, the leakage is limited. But the moment, if I was to do a video call to you on the phone, it's an uncontrolled environment. You're holding it. Before you know where you are, I've glimpsed not just the tidy part of your living room. I've just seen the
laundry room.
I've just seen the pile of washing up in your kitchen through the kitchen door, because you said I just saw a flash, but it was enough. And I saw this most enormous black dog.
Yeah. So you're a dog lover, not a cat lover.
Yes. And you're leaking data. I can see that. I'm now reading the titles of books on your bookshelves and the videos, and I'm now learning a huge amount about you.
Yeah.
And I've just seen your children. So, and and this is so scary that most people shut will not even think about a live video call on a mobile phone. If they're going to do it, they'll do it on Skype on a fixed screen, fixed camera. It's rooted to the desk. And they'll spend a little bit of time doing this kind of stuff before
throw on a suit coat.
Yeah, and they check what's behind.
Make sure that there's nothing.
Yeah, that the boss isn't going to see anything embarrassing, and the dog's locked her in the kitchen, and they say good morning.
As if I'm in an office.
So, if you were to ask people in Poznań at this conference, you say, look, most people in this conference have had video call capability on their mobile phones for the last 5 years.
That's true, and only now.
How many of them have ever made a video call? And the answer would be nearly zero. And if they did it as an experiment. If you ask how many of you use Skype, a lot of hands will start going up. If you ask them who they're Skyping, in most cases it will be
family initially.
Family, friends, yes, people who they're deliberately leaking data. They want the wash of data. They want Granny to see everything. Everything.
All the laundry.
Everything.
All the dirty dishes.
In fact, to the point where I say, hey, let's walk around.
Let's do a tour.
You pick up the camera on the Wi-Fi and we go around the house, okay? So, but if it's just someone you don't know very well, not sure, and if it's someone at work, as I say, then we create the studio environment like we have here, which has 2 walls, which are completely different if you turn the camera to what you'd see over there. We're in a totally little artificial bubble, more of an experience.
Well, so do you think that's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Where do you see it going?
What?
The fact that we're leaking data.
Well, that's a good question. I think you have to be careful who you, well,
It's inevitable to some extent.
we are all leaking a
the
vast
future
amount
of
of data. Yeah, that's right. And the big question is who we're leaking it to.
Who we're leaking it to, exactly.
Probably
The who,
American
where, what,
Secret
why.
Services, the Israeli Secret Services, whoever. I think there are profound. You see, I said, you know, as soon as you talk about the future, you end up talking about
Ethics. I was just gonna say that. Brings you
See?
back to the ethics.
Yeah.
Because eventually.
What kind of world do you want to live in?
Exactly.
What technologies do you want to use?
Keeping yourself in
See,
line, not doing too
That's
much.
why cash is so popular in Poland. It's to put it bluntly, some people are in an economy which is completely untaxed and they don't want to be taxed, so they just don't want the government to see the money going through their bank account.
Right.
That's the first area of big data
trying to-
containment. The second area of big area containment is to say, well, actually, I don't even want them to see what I buy. I don't want to see them to see what I buy from the superstore or which fashion designers. I just want to be private. Why do I want all this coming out on my credit card?
Well, you must not be a very private person, considering you put your cell phone on your Facebook page, right? What's your take on it, on leaking information?
Well,
Are you
I'm
comfortable
quite happy
with it?
to.
You're okay?
I mean, most of the time I would say I'm pretty leaky. So, in the sense that actually,
and that doesn't bother you? Doesn't bother your family?
In the digital world, the more you're prepared to share, the greater the benefit to you usually. That's to say, if the bank knows quite a lot about you, they're willing to lend more to you because they can trust you. If the company that is your advisor on life has a lot of knowledge of your preferences and your lifestyle choices, then they're likely to be able to secure the very best offers for you. If you're,
Likely. That's putting a lot of faith into those companies, though,
it
right?
might be. But we've always done it on a small scale. I mean, for instance, if you're going to go and buy an apartment in Moscow, you're probably going to try and find an estate agent that you really, really like and trust, and then you're going to tell them your life story, so they really understand the kind of place you're looking for. Yeah, they know you, and they say, "Hey, I found just the place. You will love this place." And you go straight in, and it's the first place you see, and you make an offer on it because they just got it right. Yes, they just knew. They just knew you.
Okay. That's a good, positive approach to leaking information. I like that. The leaking of information. I think we'll wrap up.
Right.
It's been a nice
Pleasure.
nice chatting with you.
Nice to chat to you.
Very
Okay.
much.